Well, welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad you joined us again tonight. Tonight we're making an onion bloom, or a blooming onion, or an onion blossom. Anyway, an onion. Vidalias are in. Here are your ingredients. You may want to pause and write them down. We would love for you to give us a like and a share and subscribe. We're going to start with the sauce because it really needs to be refrigerated a little while. This is a quarter cup mayonnaise, and this is creamy horseradish sauce. I'm going to put in about a teaspoonful. I'm estimating, but I did write down the recommended amounts. When I eat the blooming onion in a restaurant, I don't ever eat their sauce because it's just way too spicy for me. So I have the basic ingredients here, but in a little bit different proportions. That's about 2 tablespoons full of ketchup. And that's my homemade ketchup with no high fructose corn syrup. And this sauce is very similar to a Louis sauce, which is something you generally serve with seafood. You would put pickles in it for a Louis sauce. I'm adding about a pinch, maybe a quarter teaspoonful of red pepper flakes. And I'm going to add just a little bit of thyme. That's dried thyme. If you want this hotter, a little spicier, you could add some cayenne, or you could even put a couple of drops of hot sauce in it. We just don't like that. One reason we make so much at home. So I did add salt to taste, and now I'm gonna mix this up. And when you get it mixed well, taste it. You've got to taste everything, because things will be different from time to time. So taste it and see what you need. I need a little more ketchup. I like that ketchup flavor in mine, and I like the color. So mix that in. Didn't need salt, anything else, just ketchup. So this is a tiny bit, so I'm going to put it in a much smaller bowl to refrigerate it. Just get it all out. Don't want to waste a drop. You can make this in larger quantities, but this is plenty for Fred and me, and it may be another 20 years before we have a blooming onion. It's been 20 years since I made one. So when you're going to cover something that has egg or dairy in it, it'll form a film. So you want to put the plastic wrap right down on top. You want it touching. And close it up tight, and we're going to refrigerate it for at least an hour. So we're going to get the onion ready now, and I'm going to have a short safety lesson. This is my Lodge 3-quart Dutch oven. I do not have a deep fryer because I just almost never deep fry. So you want to practice a little safety here. I've got my onion. This is the one I'm going to use. I'm going to cut it off right around the top, and I want to judge the depth of oil that I need. And you should never fill a container more than 2/3 full when you're doing deep frying. This is a 3-quart container. I know it will take 2 quarts of oil. So I measure it to make sure that the 2 quarts of oil were going to cover my onion. And they did. And so this is the cook pot that I'm going to use. Cast iron always, if you can. And we'll fill this up now to 2/3. And just to be clear, the reason I say 2/3 is because when you drop the onion in, or when you drop anything in, it's going to bubble up. And if you've got your pot too full, it'll bubble out onto the stove and potentially cause a fire. So deep frying's not dangerous, but there are just some safety precautions that you have to take. So I'm going to turn this on, let it begin to heat. I'm going to have it on low heat while I prepare the onion. Now this is a nice Vidalia onion. This is the root side, and usually they're cut pretty closely. And this is the top, and we want to cut the top off. Not too deep. You want to leave as much of the onion as you can, but be sure you cut the top side. I'm gonna, maybe 1/4 of an inch into it, and cut it as evenly as you can. You want to kind of make it flat. Then we're going to peel the outer layer off down to the root, and I never try to get the little papery thing off. I just take the whole outer layer. Then we're going to deal with the little root section. This is what's going to hold your onion together, so you want to be careful with it, but you do have to trim it off. And I just sort of shave it off a little bit at a time until the bottom is almost smooth. And we've just about got it. And I did wash this onion, by the way, before I started trimming the bottom. If you take the whole outer skin off, it's pretty darn clean, but still, you do want to give it a little wash. So now we're going to start cutting. And I'm going to make 4 cuts, coming down, about a 1/2 inch from the root, and then cutting in pretty deeply and straight down. And we want to end up with 4 even sections. And we'll use those as guides for making the petals. Our goal is to make the petals as uniform in size as we can. I need all the help I can get with that. I'm just not very good at eyeballing something like that. But these 4 quarter guides will help with that a lot. So when you get those done, we're going to do 3 additional cuts between each of the quarter cuts. If you have a bigger onion, you could do 4. And if you could do it smoothly, do 5, because the smaller they are, the more even cooking you will get. 3's the minimum, and this is a fairly small vidalia. So I'm not doing too great on that uniform size, but it's pretty close. You want as many cuts in there as you can, because that's what's going to hold your breading on. So just start pulling the petals apart, kind of gently. You don't want to break off too many of them. You will break off some. And this was a really fresh onion, so they're actually kind of tight in there. You just gently pull them apart, and you may actually have to cut a little bit if your knife didn't get all the way through to the middle. And some of them may need to be just a little deeper cuts. Now this section in the middle, the core, you can cut down in it to get some more petals off of it, but basically we're going to cut the core out. You just have to look at your individual onion and see what you got. But this core in here, it probably wouldn't get done, and it's not pretty. Some people cut it all the way down to the bottom and leave a big hole so they can set the sauce in it. And I'm not going to bother with that, but I do want to get some of it out of the middle so it's just not so tight in there. And already, see, this is looking like a flower. Yep, it's not bad. I'm just going to neaten this up a little bit, cut out a little bit more of that core. And then I'm going to drop this in a bowl of cold water just to wait while I prepare other things. Another little trick you can do to loosen it up is blanch it for 1 minute in really, really hot water and then dip it in cold water, ice water. So I've got here 1.5 cups of flour. I'm using self-rising, so I won't need salt. If you use all-purpose, 1/2 teaspoonful of salt. So now our spices, and yes, I've cut back on spices. 1/2 teaspoonful each of red pepper flakes, smoked paprika, and cumin. Cumin's very important. And now I'm adding 3 tablespoons full of matzo meal, which, by the way, I think I failed to put on the ingredient list, which I generally use for crispness. You don't have to use it. Either matzo or panko is something I add when I'm frying. Now just mix, 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 and then we'll prepare our egg wash. This is a cup of buttermilk and a 1/2 cup of water and 1 egg. If you don't use buttermilk, you can use regular milk. If you do, then use 2 eggs. So here we go. Let's get our little onion. Pull it apart again. And down in the milk. And make sure you get the milk all down in there. You may have to sort of pull the blossom open a little bit. Then let it drain off. And we're going to double dip this. So right into the flour mixture. And you see I sort of spread it out a little bit. And I'm going to spoon the breading all over it. Then turn it over and spoon the breading into it. And you may have to sort of separate it. And just a lot of it, more than you think you need. See, it's staying open pretty well now. But you just want to check. If you see any spots in there that didn't get good breading, drop it in. Because we're going to shake the excess off. So you're not putting on too much, even though it looks like it. So shake it pretty well and then back in the milk. Both sides. Kind of separate as you go. And then back over in the flour. And I lost a petal. That's okay, we got plenty. So I'm putting a lot in there again, making sure it gets down inside. Once again, we're going to shake it off before we fry it. So I'm going to let this rest for about 5 minutes, and then I'll pick it up and shake it. I won't shake it hard, so that we get the excess off before we fry it. And I'm going to meet you at the stove. Turned my heat up to high. I want to show you this kitchen utensil. This is a spider. It's great when you're frying. Some have a mesh net, some are flat like this. It's great. So let's talk temperature. We're aiming for 350 degrees. And I'm going to drop one of the broken petals in, and you can see right away this is not hot enough. Confession, I never had a kitchen thermometer until about 10 years ago. I worked with a chef when I was very young, and she told me this is how you tell if your oil is right. So the first one was not right. But we waited a little while and dropped the second one in. And you can count to 8, and it pops up. Your oil's hot enough. And of course, if you have a thermometer, you could just use that. So here we go. I'm gonna turn it over and shake it again. I've got this on the spider. And yes, it's very messy. Double checking. So we're going to lower this in carefully with the spider. It's such a useful tool. And normally when we're frying, we'll put in just a little at a time to maintain the temperature. But the temperature was very important because we put the whole thing in at once. And see all these bubbles? This is why I warned no more than 2/3 full of oil when you're deep frying. So set your timer for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, we're going to flip it over. And we're going to flip it carefully. You can see it's already getting nice and golden brown. This is where a spider comes in very handy, because you don't want to just flip it, you might splatter oil out. So I'm going to set my timer now for 4 minutes. I think that'll be enough. I think I've shown you this before. I have a silicone cutting board, and I actually melted one end of this little grid in there because I like to drain things on that rather than have them right on a paper towel. So we're done. We're going to flip it over just to double check. And you know, I think it looks pretty good. Take it out carefully. Let it drain for a couple of seconds. Well, maybe 10 seconds. And then we're going to put it over here on our rack. So is that pretty or what? See how it pulled together in the center? That's why we cut that middle core spot out to give it room to expand. I'm going to plate this up and then I'm going to eat. Well, there you have it, an onion bloom. I got it really close up so you can see how gorgeously fried it is. I'm going to take a little bite, and I may have to actually get a knife to get this first piece off. It's really crunchy, really good, and excuse me, but I think it's beautiful. Here, let me give you another angle. And I'm going to pull another little piece off here and dip it in the sauce. And this is just not too spicy. I mean, it has a little bite. It's not bad. It doesn't burn your tongue. Just gives you some flavor. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us and hope to see you again tomorrow.